Good morning, gardening friends. Today is Sunday, November 5th. Beautiful fall morning. We had a couple of nights last week in the upper 30s, but no frost. I didn't have to take anything in. And I got a lot of gardening done this week. So, got a lot of things to show. First off, the angel's trumpets are still putting out. They were really fragrant last night, but they'll keep going until frost kills them back. That particular angel's trumpet has been there for, I want to say 3 years now. It comes back. I'm grabbing a sip of coffee. I did go ahead and replace what was in there? I can't think of the name of them fast enough. In any event, I went ahead and planted pansies in my strawberry pot. Begonias. I used to have begonias in there, which, by the way, I would do again. The nice thing about planting begonias in that particular pot is half of the pot is in sun and half of the pot is in shade. And the begonias performed equally well on both sides. This, with the pansies bloom to face the sun. And so the shaded side won't bloom unless you twist the pot. So every couple weeks I'll have to turn that pot, but the pansy should be there through next March. I replanted my little box there with dianthus. Theoretically, they're all going to be the same size. The one in the middle has a fragrance. My grandmother always called those Sweet Williams. Got my fountains going. Something was swimming in there last night, so the fountain is sort of off to one side. My roses are coming back. You can see they've got a bunch of new growth. The new growth is always red. Kind of looks great with the burgundy red color of the rose itself. And I told you in a video earlier this year that red is basically sunscreen, nature's way of protecting the fresh new growth. Oh my goodness, coffee tastes good today. I had some extra pansies, so I put them here, the same red pansies. Still have buds on the golden chalice vine. That should be blooming pretty soon. This area has changed. Ta-da! I put in my winter cyclamen. Not necessarily the color I would have chosen. I prefer a burgundy color, and these are more a lavendery color. However, they're far enough away from the red of the roses and the red of the dianthus that you're not really going to notice the difference. My nepenthes is still doing well. A lot of new growth at the top. Oh, my paper whites, I'm leaving them out in the kitchen in the light. I don't leave them out here, I just bring them out here for illustrative purposes. But you can see they're turning green, and I think I'll probably put them in the guest room in the garage pretty soon. That's kind of the place where I nurture plants. Ligularia, although it didn't send up a huge bloom stalk, it is blooming. Those flowers are old, so they don't look all that spectacular. Still weeding a lot through here. My Fatsias are starting to bloom. Fatsia japonica. They're not going to have quite the same huge set of blooms as last year. However, they're still blooming. A bunch more to come. They do have a peppery fragrance. Again, Fatsia japonica. Here, I don't know as if you can see it, but I noticed a couple of inflorescences on my Canary Island date palm. I'm a little worried about the Canary Island date palm because the top didn't grow as lushly this year as it has in the past. It did get hit by that hard frost last year, but that's not the first hard frost it's ever seen. So I'll keep an eye on it and continue fertilizing and watering. Oh, I hear baby. She came to eat. Yeah, we hear you. Rose has done blooming, or is done blooming, has finished blooming. Still have my Encore azaleas. The new things over here, or new thing, is I replaced this Chamaecyparis. It's a gold thread Chamaecyparis. I had one there. However, it accidentally got stepped on and it never quite recovered. So I just went ahead and planted another one. I don't have a lot of evergreens in the backyard, or in the yard, period. So I'm trying to introduce a few more evergreens. Kind of reminds me more of the gardens I had up north, because there you had to have evergreens for winter color. However, here in Zone 8B, you can get by with other things for winter color. I've got a whole flush of new flowers on the Datura. They're not blooming yet, but I do see some fruits, which is good. Right there's one. It's called prickly apple, is the other name for it. And I do plan on saving seeds because that plant was a seedling that had just come up in one of my pots this last winter. Everything is dry. We haven't had rain for 2 or 3 weeks, so I'm having to water. However, the blessing is, with the cool weather, the water doesn't evaporate quite as quickly. Okay now, cat, don't get under my feet. Yeah, I see you. The bananas are turning on their beautiful winter color. They turn yellow and, of course, brown eventually. Frost will eventually kick them or knock them down. And I'll cut them down to the ground and they will come back. Here you can see the toad lilies are still blooming. And bougainvillea is coming back. Pansies do really well here in pots because this is a full southern exposure. And so the pansies face the sun, and hence you get to enjoy them. I wanted to take you inside. This is where I nurture plants, or it's also an overflow for the house. But Lowe's was having a lot of markdowns this week because they want to get ready for Christmas. And so I was able to get quite a lot of plants for half price. These ground orchids are one. I had ground orchids for ages, still have them, but they didn't bloom last year. These are the ones that are in the little logo I've got for my channel with Miss Mimi in front of them. Well, not these particular ones, but in general, the Japanese ground orchid. Let's see, a neighbor gave me this begonia, and I've repotted it. This is that wandering dude, the zebra, that I got a cutting of about 3 weeks ago, and you can see all kinds of new growth on it. Really, it wasn't a cutting. It was a piece that broke off and was stepped on quite a lot at the nursery. This the neighbor gave me as well, a Dracaena. She had rooted it, and she gave me this cutting. It's got a little quirky neck to it, and I kind of like it. However, keep in mind, if you ever are given something like that and you don't like it, roots. You root this by burying the stalk. So if I got a deeper pot, I can make a decision when I repot this. If I want to, I can bury it lower in the ground so that crook could be under the dirt and you wouldn't see it. New roots would come out. This is my Iochroma cuttings that I took 3 weeks ago. And looks like one has died. However, and a second one may be on the way. However, 2 still seem to be green. So I'm not going to pull them out to see if any root growth has happened yet, but I only need 1. So I've got 4 cuttings. And here you can see my poinsettia with flowers from last Christmas yet. It loves this exposure. This is where I keep it for the winter. Of course, it probably won't bloom this Christmas, but you never know. Here's probably where I'll put the paper whites, because it's a little bit sunnier here, a lot sunnier here. So they'll sprout evenly. I still have some marigolds, and they should be protected by the daylilies there. I haven't tasted any satsumas yet. Although the satsumas are starting to ripen, you usually wait for the first cold snap, which we've had. So they should be viable at this point for eating. And all the wandering dudes that used to be by the kitchen, where I put the cyclamen, are now over here. Got a little bit of a shock. I had to clean them up because they are this is more sunnier. The kitchen location, that's the northern exposure, so it doesn't get any sun. In fact, this whole deck is on the north side of my house, and it will get absolutely no sun except for the last foot of it, where all the plants are. Another view of the angel's trumpet. My Pieris japonica has a lot of bud, a lot of promise for some spring flowers. I did move my bottle tree, and this is actually a perfect spot for it. I needed something up against my neighbor's fence, and it's got some color. There's no color here because it's a western exposure. However, with all the stuff around, it's very shady. And that is my dining room window. So now when I look out, I have some blue color there. Kind of nice. These satsumas are ripe for the picking. Coleus is coming back. It is sprouting. Paper whites from last year are coming up. They may or may not bloom. When you plant paper whites the second year in the ground, you have maybe a 60-40 chance of them not blooming. However, they will bloom with time. I did move some of these ferns around in the backyard. These are Kimberly ferns. One of y'all had asked about how do you propagate Kimberly ferns. Well, I think I told you I just had a pot that I laid down on the ground, and the Kimberly fern grew in the pot. And here's an example. This pot has been here from last year, and look, it's got a Kimberly fern coming up in it. So they must reproduce via spores very prolifically. By the way, all of these Kimberly ferns, they're growing strictly in leaf mold because underneath them are these pebbles, and underneath the pebbles is landscape fabric. So you don't have to worry about what kind of soil to plant these in. Let me pull one up here because, well, let's pull one up where we're not going to notice if it's pulled up or not. Here's one. It's just in leaf mold, so plant that up. There you can see the roots. and it will grow quite nicely, especially if you put it in some soil. It takes off like crazy. I'll save this one and plant it later. No sense in killing it. You can see my camellia white dove is still blooming. Got more buds to come yet. They are pretty. My potager is doing fine. Borage is being eaten by something. Probably birds. I did notice a catbird this morning in my backyard, tugging on something in a pot. I am blessed with birds. Here you can see my dill. It's doing well. Of course, when I say my dill, I did pay $5 a piece for each one of those clumps. I did not grow it. Plants have been outrageously priced this year. Here you can see these are some garlic cloves that I stuck in the ground a few weeks back, and they're starting to come up. This is lemon balm. It didn't do too well this year. And these green and white striped things are spider lilies. Spider lilies are not edible, but they were planted there, so I haven't dug them up yet. And my parsley, doing well. I'll probably use some of it today in my cooking. I cleaned up this in the front yard yesterday. Clump of bananas looks good. I trimmed up the hedging. Of course, the cassia is still in absolute full bloom. This is what it does. This is what it lives for. It is a floppy shrub, as you can see with the stakes that I've got on it. But this is its time to shine. It will get killed by the first frost. And when I say killed, it will die back to the ground. So even though it's a woody shrub, it comes back every year. This is 1 year's worth of growth. It was cut to the ground last year. I did go ahead and plant up some stuff here. You see a new palm tree there. I got that from Lowe's, marked to half price, which made it even that much more appealing. It is a Mediterranean fan palm, just like this one over here, which I also got discounted 4 or 5 years ago, except I paid $5 for that and $12 for that one. But it'll grow fast enough. I actually had another fan palm, Mediterranean fan palm there in that particular, well, it might have been right where the yellow plant is. And in any event, I dug it up and put it in the backyard, the cassia. Couldn't think of it fast enough. And it wasn't too shady of a spot, so bottom line, I killed it. But I wasn't out much because I only paid $5 for the fan palm, so I put another one in its spot slightly farther back. And I figure that'll thicken this out nicely here. My hydrangea is doing well. I trimmed up my hedge over here. I have, in the back, I have a ligustrum hedge, and on the street side of the ligustrum hedge is azaleas, indica azaleas, I think 2 or 3. And the plan has always been that the ligustrum gets kept tidy, flat-topped, and you don't see the sides of it, so just flat-topped. And I let the azaleas kind of do what they want to do. So it looks like a cloud from the other side. Here you can see my black Italian fig. It doesn't have any other fruit, which is good because they probably wouldn't make it. I cleaned this area up particularly well yesterday. It's amazing how in this little spot I got a whole trash bag full of stuff, weeds and trimmings. I'm going to have to do the same in the other corners. But I've just about caught up with all the gardening that needs doing. Everything is just full of bud. All of this is my camellia garden, to those of you that are new. This is, I think it's called Mr. Butterfield, or Butterfield. It's supposedly yellow. This one didn't bloom last year, has no name. Sad camellia, but beautiful flowers. Those are huge flowers if they bloom. This is my scented camellia. No progress on it. The birds are absolutely loving the bird feeder. My hummingbirds have left. I am now feeding bumblebees. And I figured I've got hummingbird food, so I will just keep putting it out for the bumblebees until I'm out of food. I did plug the holes in this hedge of gardenias, and the new plants are looking fine. I did plant another evergreen. Remember, I told you at the beginning of this journey today that I didn't have many evergreens. So this is just a low-lying juniper. You may think that the cassia is awfully close to that Mediterranean fan palm, and you are right. However, my experience with cassias is they don't live forever. You're lucky to get 4 or 5 years, in my experience, out of one plant, and then it just dies out. Either the winters are too bad for it or something. But so the cassia is beautiful to look at, but it's more than a biennial. I'd say it's probably a 3 or 4 year plant. If you're lucky, you might have it come back year after year. But in zone 8B, it's kind of questionable. Here, you can see the pansies are still doing well. I did work on this corner. This is a Fire Chief arborvitae. It grows in a ball shape, and it should never get more than 2.5 feet tall, which is perfect for this corner spot. Won't block anyone's view of traffic. And I planted more Sweet Williams, all the same color. And I've got just a corner full of the yellow pansies. There you can see another one of the arborvitae. They're going to be yellowish green during the summer, but this time of the year they blush that reddish color. And my bananas. It's kind of turning out to be a nice view from this corner. And the front side of the potager is looking fine. Those pansies, I have to water them. I'll probably do that after I'm done with this video. These pansies look absolutely perfect here. It took me a while to figure that out, but remember I told you they like to face the sun, and this is south. This is where the sun comes from. So if I planted them on the other side of the fence, they would bloom pitifully. But this way they bloom, and they will all face out. And that's about it for the day. I hope you all get a chance to get out and enjoy this beautiful weather. Have a good day.